empty Capitol tonight. You can tell. I can hear the echo on it. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you staying up late. Here to discuss all of this now is CNN senior political reporter Nia Malika Henderson. Michael Isikoff, the chief investigative correspondent for Yahoo News. Hello to both of you. Nia. See, I didn't call you Nina this time.
All right. So, thank goodness.
We're seeing two sides of this presidency. On the one hand, President Trump struggling to get major legislation passed with so much attention on the Russia investigation. And then on the other, he's coming off another election win for Republicans. He has a spring in his step tonight.
Yeah, and he should, right? I mean, they have been able to go 4-0 in all of these special elections. It's a clean sweep, winning seats. They should have won, but in Georgia, millions of dollars dumped on the Republican candidate, who in some ways ran away from Donald Trump. She ends up winning pretty handily in there, so he goes out to Iowa. And this rally that we saw him at tonight was planned before, and smartly, I think, for him to go out there and really to get re-energized. We've been hearing from this White House, as Jeff talked about, this is something they want to see from this president. They want to put him out there on the road. He hasn't really been out there on the road much, so I think this will be good for this president to kind of underscore where he is, that he proved the haters wrong, right? Everybody thought that 36% approval rating that he has at this point would be a drag on candidates in these races, and so far it hasn't been. You know, it's obviously still early. 2018 isn't here yet. And special elections aren't always harbingers of what's to come. If you remember, Obama did very well early on in special elections. I think they went 5-0 as well in special elections on the House side. But then when you fast forward to actual midterms, it was difficult for President Obama, and it could be that way for this president as well.
Yeah, see where that got him, meaning the Obama administration. President Trump is hoping to get, though, a legislative victory to match his electoral victory. He talked about the health care battle tonight. Watch this.
So we have a very slim 52 to 48. That means we basically can't lose anybody. And I think, and I hope, can't guarantee anything, but I hope we're going to surprise you with a really good plan. You know, I've been talking about a but Obamacare is dead.
So he wants a plan with heart. He went on to talk about wanting a tax deal, an infrastructure deal. What's your reaction?
You know, when he talks about this plan with heart and adding money to it, I mean, he sounds like a big spending liberal. And it looks like we'll see this bill tomorrow. That's what is being promised out of the Senate. It's been hatched in secret so far. So we'll see. I mean, I think essentially you'll look for what are they doing with the Medicaid expansion? Is it sunsetting? At what point is it sunsetting? Are they putting more money in there so that premiums aren't hiked? You have to look at are people going to be kicked off of health care, right? I mean, all those CBO scores from the House bill, millions and millions of people would go without coverage, according to the CBO. So we'll see what happens with that. The president eventually calling that health care bill mean. But, you know, he was ticking off, you know, kind of a wish list of what this presidency was supposed to look like before it kind of got stalled by all of these Russia in investigations, and stalled in part by the president's own way of being distracted by Russia and not being so invested in some of the legislation.
And being his own worst enemy.
Right.
Mr. Isikoff, you sat by, you've been very patient as Nia and I have hogged up the air. So will
Sorry,
Republicans
Michael.
be more likely to link themselves to President Trump following all these Republican wins? Or is there still a hesitation, not knowing where all this Russia investigation stuff, where that's going to lead?
Well, look, it is hard to say. I think this, you know, obviously ought to be a sort of note of caution for Democrats that have been pushing the Russia investigation, if only given the fact that there's, you know, precious little evidence it had any impact at all on the election in Georgia. You know, Ossoff didn't talk about it barely, and there was no indication that voters were penetrating. That doesn't mean there aren't serious issues that need to be investigated, but you know, there may be an argument to be made that it doesn't need to quite dominate the political discussion in Washington to the degree that it currently does.
Can I ask you something about you know, winning despite the haters? Because Nia mentioned it earlier. So many people, Michael, said that Donald Trump was out or done after he criticized Senator McCain, or when he made fun of a disabled reporter, when he criticized the Gold Star family, or when, you know, that lewd audio tape came out, the Access Hollywood thing.
Or he went after the federal judge.
Yeah.
Right.
And he keeps winning, so, you know, the president's party keeps winning in these special elections. So why wouldn't the president believe that he's right and, you know, everybody else is wrong?
I'm sure he does. I mean, that's
what would stop
Donald
him
Trump.
from believing that? Yeah, that's the question. Yeah.
You know, it's hard to see a scenario at this point that would. But, you know, could I just say, like, today's hearings in the Senate and the House actually were substantive hearings where we learned information about the core issue here, about what the Russians were doing in the election. The idea, we didn't know until today that as many as 21 states were targeted. We didn't know until today that there are pending investigations by the FBI into those hacks, which suggest either it's as counterintelligence or if they're going criminal, that Russian officials are in the crosshairs for indictments. We didn't know until we heard Jay Johnson spell it out today that he had trouble formulating a response. He went to the DNC, tried to offer DHS's assistance to the Russian hack, got rebuffed, and then when he had this remarkable phone conference with state election officials offering assistance, offering to designate state election systems as critical infrastructure, he gets this blowback, pushback from state election officials saying, no, you know, we don't want a federal takeover of our elections. So as a result, he put it all on the back burner.
Why would they target those specific states? So was it something about their election systems? Or
well, we don't know. We don't know for sure. But, you know, the two that we know that were penetrated were Arizona, which is a purple state, leans red, and Illinois, which is a blue state. And then there are 21 other states, and we don't know who they were. But the general theory is that the Russians were probing, they were exploring possible manipulations that they could do, that there may not have been a fixed idea to switch the vote in any particular state. They just wanted to see where the vulnerabilities are and what they might conceivably do.
During the soundbite, I just realized something, that the president and I looked an awful lot alike today.
You got your bright red tie on.
In this edition of Who Wore It Best. So,
You, Don, you have worn it best.
Thank you both. I appreciate it.